3.5 now after the hour. Daybreak Live on a Friday morning, a third day of June 2022. And young lady that was with us yesterday, back with us again this morning. Couldn't get enough of Norma G and Bryan. Norma G, good morning.
Good morning.
And we're what, quilting this morning?
We are going to quilt.
All right.
Just a little bit.
Okay, tell me about this.
Okay, I'm here to talk to you about our Friendship Quilting Club. It is one of the groups that meets at the Maxie VZ Senior Center, okay? And we have been established for many years, even back in the 1960s is when it started. And it has, at first was just a group of folks getting together, visiting, having a good time, but it's developed over the years since then into a quilting club. And we've had many members in the past, but some of them have just gotten older and they've passed away. So we're trying to find some new members for our quilting club.
I remember, Norma Jean, when I was a little boy, my mama and ladies from the community and church, they would quilt.
Yes.
And they'd hang these things from the ceiling.
Absolutely.
And do it.
That's what I learned on.
Oh, really?
I learned about 40 or so years ago how to quilt, and the lady that taught me had hers in the living room, and she would it'd go up and down as she needed it, and it was a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it ever since.
So what are y'all gonna be doing?
We don't hang our frames from the ceiling.
That's good.
We do not, but we do have some there that some frames have been made. And I just kind of wanted to talk about quilting. A lot of people know about it, some don't. So I just thought I would go through a few steps to see if anybody would be interested
colors,
in joining
aren't
us.
they?
Thank you.
Yeah.
That is good. We need a lot of color. A lot of people like whites, and there's nothing wrong with that. But have a variety of color. That is what I like. But it is a process to quilt. So first of all, you would decide what kind of quilt you're going to make. We've got names of quilts called 4-patch, flower garden, a 9-patch, moon over mountain, Dresden plate. You might be familiar with some of these names. So you got to decide what kind of quilt you're going to make. Then you'll decide the color of it. Again, the brighter the better, I think, okay? So you have to cut all your different pieces.
Are quilts popular now?
Not as they were. It's almost a lost art,
Wow.
Jimmy Dale. I'm sorry to say that, but that is the truth. So we're trying to get some more people involved, and younger ladies or men. We're going to talk about that in a minute, because men can do it too.
Okay.
But we need some more people to do it so that it will not become a lost art, okay? But you just go through your steps, and once you get your squares in this particular quilt, you sew all your squares together. And here I'm just matching solid squares with a print square.
I'm assuming you're doing it on a machine?
I am doing this on the machine. You don't have to, you can do it by hand.
Oh.
But I do the quilt tops generally on the machine, and then do the quilting part by hand. So I've got my different rows here, and what you can do eventually is put your rows together. And this is somewhat the beginning stages of making the quilt top come together. Okay, so it's just a process. Okay, so I just want to give you an example of some of the steps that it takes in order to make
All right,
one.
so where do you get your material stuff at? Where do you get that
Oh,
at?
material you can find at different places.
Oh, that's pretty.
I used to love Hancock Fabrics, but they've closed. So sad, so sad. But different places around town and in the bigger cities has fabric. Joann's, Walmart has a fabric department now. So I like the bright and cheerful colors. Okay, so you can get fabric many places. You sure can.
How do you make a quilt? I know you kind of given us.
I'm so glad you asked. I have a sample of that too. I hope it's okay. You've got your lining or your backing. Most of the time it's a solid color, but it does not have to be. Look at that. Solid color. Then you've got this in the middle called the batting. That's what helps keep you warm when you're laying under a quilt.
Oh, yeah?
And then you've got your print part generally is on the top. And I thought I would just bring this, do a few stitches, and I might just get you to do it too.
You stick yourself?
So you go, all the time.
Ah.
It happens all the time. At the Friendship Quilting Club, we only quilt by hand. Nothing wrong with doing it on the machine. They're wonderful creations, I'm sure. I don't have one, so this is all I do, and that's all that we do at the Quilting Club. But you just basically go down, making sure you get all 3 linings or layers. Then you come up, and then you go down again. And when you pull your needle through, I hope you can see my thread there. Stitches are much smaller than this, but this is just an example to show you, okay? But that's basically quilting. You are combining the 3 layers.
So how long does it take to make a quilt?
It depends on what size of quilt. It depends on the pattern of the quilt, the time it takes to cut out all the pieces. So it varies. I can do a quilt top if I know exactly what pattern, colors, things like that, probably in a couple of weeks. And then the quilting part takes a little longer. It might take up to a month. Again, it depends on if it's just a twin size or up to a king size.
You know, nothing like sleeping under a quilt, isn't it?
You're right. Nothing like it. Nothing like it. It's wonderful. Very cozy.
I remember when I was a little boy, we lived at Steerville and it was cold.
Yes.
And we had layers of quilts.
I was fixing to say that. I remember being under 2 or 3 when I was young. It would be that cold.
Yeah. And so when do y'all do this?
We meet every Wednesday morning at the Maxie Veazey Senior Center at 8 o'clock. That's when our time frame starts there at the center. And we go to about 11:30, 12 o'clock, something like that. And it's just a wonderful time where ladies get together, we talk, we laugh, we cut up. Quilting bees in the past, that was just a time to get together. Not necessarily gossip, a lot of people think we do, but mostly we just have fun. Talk about the current events, things that are going on, your friend, your husband, whatever. It's just a good time to be together. So how long is the class
a day?
Generally 3.5 hours. Okay. And it's not very firm in that if you're running late, come on in. If it's a few minutes after 8 o'clock, it's okay. If you need to leave a little early to go to an appointment, it is okay. We're very flexible in that. But it's just a good atmosphere. We have all the materials that we need. Just a good time to be together with some friends.
Norma Jean Bryan, our guest this morning, she is a part of the Quilting Club, and what is it called? The Friendship Quilting
Friendship Quilting Club, yes, sir.
How did it get started?
It was, again, back in the 1960s, and Maxie Veazey herself was an instigator in getting a group of people together just to have some fellowship. Later on, it became an actual quilting club, but they would just get together and do different kinds of crafts. I did not know her. I did not have the pleasure of knowing her, but Miss Sherry at the Senior Center, she was telling me she was a lovely lady and had a really good time just being around people, doing crafts, not just sitting and doing nothing, but just having some quality time together and doing something at the same time.
We sell these quilts? Or can we sell them?
Generally, we do not. Okay. We have some of the quilters in the club, they will want the club to quilt a quilt for them. And there is a charge for that. We have people outside of the quilting club to want us to make a quilt for them. And there is a charge for that. But as far as quilts we make to sell, not necessarily, but there have been occasions over the years that we've done that. You know,
we talked yesterday about keeping our mind busy.
Yes.
This is a good way to keep your mind and hands busy.
Absolutely. Like I was saying yesterday, different things that you do will keep different parts of your brain functional. And this is something that when you get used to doing it, you do it just automatically and don't think about it. But the designing part, the choosing of the colors, different things, again, you're using different parts of your brain.
What's the favorite color?
Mine?
Or basically for a quilt?
Well, I think green ought to be in it every time, personally. That's just my favorite color. But you can have absolutely any color at all. The rainbow is just full of colors. And you
so grandparents come and daughters come and granddaughters come, and
Absolutely.
you teach the younger generation about
We
that.
can do that. Again, we need to be teaching the younger folks because it is the becoming of the lost art. Yes.
They have quilting classes in school.
Not when I was in school, or I would have taken it.
That'd be a good idea.
We
though.
used to have home ec,
Yeah.
so we learned about sewing,
Yeah.
which is a part of this craft, but not necessarily quilting
Have,
classes.
have you done a complete quilt?
Oh, many.
Really? Tell me about one of your favorites.
I will tell you about the one and only quilt that I have designed myself. I was sitting at work many years ago. I was working, I promise I was. But sometimes things will just get into your mind and it's like, okay, you need to write this down. So I designed a quilt of my own and I called it Circles of Flowers. So on the back of the quilt, it was solid brown fabric. Where do flowers come from? Dirt. What color's dirt? Green. So the back of my quilt was dark brown. The sheet that I used for the front was green. Probably almost every flower has leaves on it. What's the color of leaves? Green. So that's why I had green. And then I cut out circles, just like this. And every one of these was a fabric with flowers in it, all different colors. So I just scattered the circles on the solid green sheet, appliqued them on there, quilted it, and that is my quilt that I designed. There's no other quilt in the world like it.
Wow.
One of a kind, truly.
Hey, can you do like smaller quilts, like throws and stuff like that too?
Oh, absolutely. I make baby quilts a lot at our church. Some of the ladies get together and we quilt baby quilts. You can have some lap quilts. Can go up to the twin size, the full size, king, queen, king, whatever size you want. You can make your own size if you want. Absolutely.
So how can ladies watching, maybe they're in another part of the state and they'd like to get something going on in their, I guess they can just go to their senior center too, right?
Absolutely. They certainly can. That is what the center is for. Just a group of us to get together with one goal and create something. Nothing wrong with that at all. These are beautiful. You probably won't ever see an ugly quilt. So we want to create something beautiful. And it doesn't have to be perfect. None of them are perfect. There's going to be a stitch that's a little bit longer than another. We just want to create something. So absolutely get with your folks at the senior center.
I've got 2 quilts. I don't know if my mama quilted them, but I just hold on to them quilts. They are so warm and kind of comforting, you know?
Absolutely. They're precious. Please don't ever just put them in the closet because they're so pretty and you don't want to get them dirty. Use them. It takes months sometimes of time and effort into that quilt, and you want to appreciate it. So it's a wonderful thing to have old quilts.
All right, so again, tell us what you're doing and how. I don't guess you have to be necessarily a female. I mean, a male.
Oh.
Males can be in part of it too, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. I brought a current Quilting magazine, and I want you to prove this is a man's picture.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Reed. He has created a quilt.
That's beautiful.
Isn't it? It is. And actually, in the same magazine, here is a gentleman, Mr. Scott.
Yeah.
He's created these.
Wow.
So not only is he a quilter, but he designs the quilts, okay? And one other idea I had about this, and hopefully some of the men that are watching will know who I'm talking about. Have you ever heard of an NFL football player called Rosie Greer?
Oh, yes.
Yes. He played on the New York Giants and the Los Angeles Rams.
Sure did.
He became famous in doing he became famous playing football, but he also did some commercials doing needlepoint embroidery, if you will. He also was one that crocheted and knitted. And I remember when I was
Rosie
young,
Greer?
absolutely.
Wow.
I remember he did TV
He's a big
commercials.
man.
Huge. But he was
Wow.
into crafts as well, and there's nothing wrong with men. So nobody can ever say, oh, he's a weaker person by being a man and doing something like this. Absolutely not. It can be for anybody.
All right, so how can we get folks started, and when's going to be the next meeting?
All righty. Next Wednesday will be our next meeting. If you have any questions, you can call the Senior Center. Their number is 256-401-0021. Betty Bazell, by chance, is our president. That is her name. She's kind of over the group right now. And she can answer any of your questions that you have. If you need to leave a message, it will be fine. But we meet every Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock.
All right. Norma Jean, thanks so much for coming.
Oh, thank you. I've enjoyed
It's an honor
this.
to have you, and let's get the Friendship Quilting Club on the move.
Yes, we need
J.
some
Craig
work.
Smith Community Center and the Maxie Veazey Center. And hey, we'll have you back on again, okay?
I'd love that.
Next time we want to see a completed quilt.
I can do
That'll
it.
work?
Yes, sir.
All right, more Daybreak coming up right after this.